All right, so I want to take a moment to talk about free will. Um, I always hear things, about why is this allowed to happen? Why did that happen? Um, and in this world, I feel like there's a lot of answers we just don't have. I mean, answers. There's a lot of questions we just don't have the answers to, plain and simple. But I feel like when these questions are asked about why this, why that, um, people tend to totally just forget about, you know, free will, which is probably one of the most valuable things we have, the ability to analyze and make choices based off, some people might do it based off the best possible situation for them or what's best for, a group of people. It's so many different ways, reasons people, um, so many different ways people use their own free will. And it just makes me think, like, would people be more would they be more willing to accept what happened if everything was pre-written and you didn't have the ability, that you didn't have free will? um I think you know there's a big question you have to ask yourself, because when you think about free will and what it does and how it gives you the ability to make your own choices, you also have to understand you have the ability to choose whether you want to do good or whether you want to do bad. Now, I think a majority of people might agree with me and say that, yeah, it's a lot easier to do what's wrong and a lot harder to do what's good. But this is the choice you have to make. You have to decide if you're going to be a burden to this world, or if you're going to try to, make this place we live on, this home, this earth, a better place. And I like to have this conversation, and I like to sometimes get rid of consequence of, going to heaven or hell. Like, sometimes I want to, just remove it, because I believe in religion, I believe in God, but for the sake of this argument or this, this topic, let's just say, nobody knows where you're going after this life. Like, they don't know exactly what's going to happen. So say there are no real, because you don't know what's going on, no repercussions on your actions on this world. What if everybody just can go to heaven or just live? Just saying, what if that's not the way it worked? Would that, this is my question, would that trigger something to make your reactions or your actions different? Would that make you the type of person who's extremely selfish if you found that out? Would you decide to be all for yourself because there's no consequence of, negative actions or killing somebody or hurting somebody, so you can just do whatever you want to do and get to places that you want to get to without any repercussions or any anything to think about, or any consequence? It's just, it happened, but when you think like that, and then you start talking about the mysteries of this world and how they have something when they say karma, people can't really explain it, but sometimes you will see instant karma. In this world, there's a lot of things that happen, and I feel like it's really up to that type of person to understand it or acknowledge it, because sometimes you can look for signs and dream up of something that's not even actual, that's not true. You can just imagine things and trick yourself into thinking something is true. So I'm not trying to throw people off, but I'm just trying to say there's things that might, have some truth to it, as far as like, karma, or the energy you put out, you get back. That can be something you just can't really, explain how it work. You just can look at the basic terms of it and understand that, if you put out negative energy, it's going to come back to you. And then you could think like a logical person and say, well, if you're committing crimes, if you're selling drugs, if you're involved in like, violent actions, then no, that's what you deal with. Then obviously it's going to happen to you, because this is all you see. This is all you're around. So you can try to, pretty much think a little logically and say like, oh, well, that makes sense that this person suffered from that action, because that's what they do. They're a violent person. So violence was definitely going to come back, and they had to pay, well, however it happened. So you can think like that. But I do feel it's a lot more, than just that. It's a lot more than just that, just, thinking logically. But they did have this experiment, and this is just me talking about free will, and I'm branching off a little bit because I want you guys to get a better understanding of like how I'm thinking. There was an experiment on particles or atoms, and it's really interesting. Maybe I might be a little bit off with this, but it was said that the atoms or the particle reacts differently when you watch it than when you're not watching it. So that's really bizarre. That's like that. I don't know if you ever heard this. Does a tree make noise if it falls and nobody's around to hear it? Like, it makes you think like, what is noise? Like, is noise only something? Is noise something that can only become what it is if there's someone to hear it? Like, I don't know if you guys follow me or get what I'm saying. If you had somebody who could not hear, right? Does noise exist to them? It doesn't exist. So therefore, it requires someone with ears to become what it is, to become noise. It won't exist unless you can hear it. So it just makes you, think about how the world works, and that it's really tricky. And this is what I'm saying. Like, when you go through it and you analyze it, it's just certain things that I don't think we're gonna ever have the full answer to. So now I'm gonna go back to what I was saying. With that being said, I want to go back to free will, and how I wonder if people didn't know or didn't think that there will be consequences, what would be their reaction towards this world. I told myself, like a while back that, and I believe in God. I'm a strong believer in religion. But I told myself that, that's just me just putting things aside, right? Because I always think about everything. I always analyze situations. I question a lot of things. But let me just put things aside, for a second. Would I still be a person who, don't want to sell drugs? Let's just say some things, for instance. Don't want to harm people or rob people or, cause chaos or just, steal or do whatever it takes to get to the top. Would I still be that person if there was no consequences? And it was a really tough conversation to have with yourself. But I came to the conclusion that I would be the same person, only, but it's weird because I don't want the easy way. I'm not an easy way out of type of person. So, it's always bad. It's always easy to do the wrong thing. Let's say that. But for me, there's like just helping somebody, a simple thing, like say you help an old lady across the street. A simple thing like that, to me goes a long way. And there's no amount of money, I don't think there's anything you can switch off that will give you that amount of joy of just helping somebody out the kindness of your heart. Like it's a noble act, and it's a lot that comes with that. It's about not wanting something in exchange. It's about just doing it because it's the right thing to do. But some things I consider to be just something you're supposed to do. Like I feel like doing something like that is you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to, do something in that line of actions. If somebody needs help, just with something simple that won't even harm you, I feel like as human beings, as us all living on this planet, that's something we supposed to do. Now, I feel like a kindness, an act of kindness, and just going a little bit beyond would be like taking your hard-earned money and paying somebody bills, or somebody who's possibly can get kicked out their home, helping them in that way, or they have to go through some medical procedure and they don't have health insurance for it, helping them. That's like going out of your way to make sure this person is okay. And I feel like those acts are, well, if it's not out of the kindness of your heart, and if you're not doing it for any financial gain, you're just doing it because you like, I want to do good things. I feel like there's still nothing wrong with that. Like you chose, you're using your free will, and you chose a path to do something kind for somebody just because that's what you want to do. Like you want to be someone who helps this world become better, not be a burden or make it worse. So take all that in and just think about this. Everything I said, right? Just think about it. Everybody thinks differently, and I get it. But there are some people on this planet, in this world, who thinks like the opposite of what I was saying. Who thinks along that line, but chooses a different route. Now, just think about this. Imagine a person who understands or thinks that there's no repercussions after this. There's only the now. This is what it is, and this is what I gotta make it whatever I can. So imagine a person who don't feel remorse about hurting somebody, stealing from somebody, killing somebody, or deceiving somebody. They just can do these actions, sleep at night, and feel that I'm going to do what I need to do by any means because I got to make sure that I'm okay. What happens to everybody else does not matter. And in that reality, in that world, let's just say that's the world. That's hypothetically speaking, that's what's going on. That's true. That's what's really going on. If you look at it like that, technically he's not wrong. And I know that might sound really hard to say, but if there's nothing, and I'm not going to say nothingness because that's not a word, but I'm going to say if there's nothing after it and it's just, it's a non-existent, after this life is just, everything is just non-existent or whatever the case may be. I would guess I deep down inside I still want to say that it's wrong. Yes, because there is right and wrong, but the way that person is thinking is still selfish though. Like I'm trying to look at it from both perspectives. I don't have anybody to debate or argue with, so now I gotta just like kind of jump back and forth. But it's, if we all end up in the same place regardless, then that person is basically saying, I want to live this life to the fullest that I possibly can. But now that brings you to a point where you have to think about what is life, what is living. Like I said, the amount of joy and, you know, the feeling you get from doing a selfish, noble act can't be compared to anything else. So for me, that would be living, you know, doing things like that. You know, that would be the ultimate, you know, gesture, I guess. I don't know. That would be like the ultimate thing to do. Like me stealing from somebody or killing somebody to get financial gain or to get ahead in life is the easiest way. And it's not really about who's stronger, you know, because a lot of times people portray the bad guy as being strong guy when it's really totally the opposite way. The person who does the noble acts and you know, helps people and do what's right and sacrifice what they have for others is really the strongest person. But you know, it's really tricky. You know, it's really tricky, and it just makes me think like this is just one of them conversations where you could just go back and forth and you can just, you know, debate. But moral of the story is, I feel like with free will, we all have a choice. We all have a choice. Now, what you do with the choice, it's up to you. The strongest will, and I don't want to say this and say it's 100% accurate, but I'll say the strongest people will choose good and the weakest people will choose evil. And I feel like that's probably part of the reason why when you have a clash of good versus evil, and you notice that evil will get really close but never really win, maybe because that's it. A weaker person who would choose to give up would choose the easiest route. A stronger person would choose the harder route. And that's like the simple good versus evil scenario right there. But you know, it's just, this is a coin toss type of conversation. Like I'm pretty sure there's so many people who will lean in either way, either or. And let me just say this too. I always said this, right? I always said a person will say what they would do until they actually in that situation. So with everything I said, even though I said I would choose this path, just remember there's always a chance someone can change up. Just because somebody says something doesn't make it accurate. Like actions speak louder than words. And this is a question that nobody really knows the answer to. So nobody knows exactly what happens, you know. I'm talking about like we could be really close, like this we could be really close, but I'm just saying exactly. I don't think we know exactly. We don't know exactly, but we are really you know, we are really, really close probably to the answer. But you know, with religion, because I believe in religion, but it's still like 100%. I don't think we know 100% of the truth. And this brings me to another situation that I asked my friend, right? And I'm like, it's a simple question. I said, would you take 6 years? I think I said 6 or 10 years. Let's say 10 years for the sake of the video. I said 10 years in jail, right? But you have all of the answers to everything. Every answer or every question, that we have that we don't know, Like, why do we exist? How do we exist? How is the pyramids built? What is the government really doing? Like, everything. You have every answer. But you have to spend 8 years in jail. Or you don't go to jail, you don't have the answers, and you take $1 billion. Which one would you choose? He said, because he's a person who like to have conversations like me. He like to talk about stuff like this. So he said he'd take the 8 years in jail. 100%. He'd take the 8 years. And he said, well, he know people will take the money because, it's just people live in a different world. And in that world, like, if you can live a nice life with a lot of money and you can be happy, So it's a real tough decision, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't ask myself that question, but I have a family. I have a daughter. I have my whole family. Like, $1 billion or $1 million would really do a lot. And me not taking the 8 years in jail with all the answers doesn't mean that if I take the money that I'm gonna be a bad person. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna just change up but the thing about it is, like, I'm gonna be honest. When you analyze the question, that money, there's no amount of money you can put on knowing all the answers. There's no amount. If you really knew, all of the answers, life as you know it will cease to exist in its current reality. Like, you wouldn't even be on this reality, I think. Like, and I'm not talking about first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth. I'm not talking about that type of, well, maybe I am talking about that, but I don't think, this would be something that would change everything for you. Your perspective on probably breathing. Like, I'm just think outside the box, breathing, moving, food, speaking, like everything we know it would totally not, like, your values would be different. Like, I don't even know if family would be important to a person like that who knew. You got to think about it. Like, that's one of them questions right there. But I'm gonna try to, like, because I remember I was like being really consistent on this. I think I was doing like a month. I did like a month strong, being consistent with my videos and just just talking about things. I want to get back to it. And I have another thing I want to talk about, but I think this video is already 23 minutes, which is extremely long. So I'm gonna just cut it right now, and nobody's gonna watch this entire video. So by the time I say like, comment, and subscribe to the video, it's gonna be off by that time. But if you by any chance got to the end of this video, do like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll try to continue to put some content up like this. What's crazy? I be just thinking about so much like content, and I don't write it down. I be forgetting, so I forget. I don't know what to talk about sometimes. So I just come on here and just like, talking up a storm, just blabbering. But so now look, man, now I got all the stuff jumping in my head. Like, talk about this, talk about that, talk about this. When it's about to be over. But yeah, thank you. Be blessed. Hopefully everybody's blessed. Family's healthy. I do want to say this before I get off, because this is going to be a whole topic, and this is what I'm trying to understand. Just know that, if you have your family, you're in good health. Don't really, I'm not talking about the little things. I'm talking about like the big things, like family, health, peace of mind. Don't let other things stress you out. Those are the real fruits and the things you hold that's really valuable in this world. And you have to acknowledge it and cherish it, and know that you're rich without the money, and you're rich where it counts. So I just want to say that message.